Hi, welcome to Infusion, the podcast. I'm comedian Chris Patrick, a.k.a. self-proclaimed power man. And today we're here with Rach. And Rach, what are we going to be talking about today?
People-pleasing, self-sabotage, and false thinking.
People-pleasing, self-sabotage, and false thinking. But before we get started, we'd like to say our hearts, thoughts, and prayers go out to Daunte Wright, the young African-American kid who was shot by the Brooklyn Center Police. Now, we do not know anything about the case. We haven't looked in any details and all that, but we know there are people out there protesting the death of this young African-American kid. And like I said, our thoughts, hearts, and prayers go to him and his family. So let's get started. People-pleasing. What exactly are we talking about with people-pleasing, Rach?
So some of the signs that you would be looking at is, are you apologizing too much? Are you trying to avoid conflict? Are you always saying yes? And are you trying to get everyone to like you?
Okay, so you're saying trying to get people. Well, I remember, growing up in Maple Grove, during the 70s and 80s. And you always, and you see this in the middle schools or in the high schools, that you got these cliques that I got to dress like this, I got to have the same shoes as this guy, because everybody wants to be liked, everybody wants to find some group. But then when I got older, being a punk rocker in high school, it was like, oh, you're dressing like this, you're doing this, you're wearing your pants like this and all that. And of course, I was hated and I was liked, but I learned back then was that, hey, this is who I am. You like it, cool. If you don't, I don't need you, And I found out too that there's a lot of big support groups as far as if you're into motorcycles, you can go to Sturgis or something like that, and you like to be around other people who are into the same thing you're into, So what more can you elaborate as far as people pleasing?
So I know for myself, I was very much a people pleaser growing up. I grew up in a hard home and was very much teased in school. So I was always trying to get people to like me, and grew up trying to always get the yeses and always trying to give the yeses to any question that would be asked from me, even from outside sources, not just from churches, but from strangers. Just, yes, I'll do that for you. Yes, I'll do this for you. Yes, I'll do that for you.
Well, and I kind of went into that with myself because growing up, my dad was always like, Chrissy, can you do this, Chrissy? And then my brothers and all. And it took me a while to have to realize and have to come to this realization on my own, as far as it's okay to say no, And I had to start doing it just on random stuff, like, hey, Chrissy, can you hand me the mustard? No, I'm just kidding you. But now I can say no and not feel any remorse or not. And I'm not saying that if my friend's car's messed up and I'm sleeping and, he needs me to come, help him out. I was like, I would definitely come help him out. But there's other things where it's like, can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? And it's like, no. Find another way. I don't care, but it's not my problem, And it's hard to sometimes have to come to that, because it's like, oh, I got to please this person. But then you realize you don't have to please everybody, and it's okay sometimes to say no.
Exactly. And for myself, having 5 children, and before I ran into you, I was doing it by myself, and I was saying yes to my family. I was saying yes to my friends. I was saying yes to church. I was saying yes to everyone. And where was that leaving time for myself? Where was that leaving time for my children? And it left very little time and a whole lot of stress.
Yeah, because I remember that, because when we started dating, we were actually starting a long distance relationship. I was in Minneapolis and she was in Marshall, Minnesota, and she's like, "Well, I got to do this for this, and I got to do this." And I said, "Rachel, you need to take some time for yourself." "I know, I'll clean the house." I said, No. You don't understand what take some time for yourself means. I said, you need to just go to a movie, sit down, and just relax. "No, I want to clean the house." I said, "Rachel, just go to the movie, sit down, and relax." And then when she actually did it, she goes, "You were right. I feel much better, I feel much better. I feel more happier." It was just nice, just doing nothing. And sometimes that's a great thing too, just to do nothing. But when you're trying to please everybody all the time, sometimes, and it goes back to the old saying, you can't please everybody,
Exactly. Yeah, you really can't please everyone. And sometimes you try your best and they don't appreciate the effort that you gave them.
Exactly, exactly. And especially one of my jobs, I work in the hotel industry, and people come in and they're mad. And I understand too that, hey, I've been at the airport all day. I can't get my flight. I can't get home to see my family. Then all of a sudden, the airlines has put me up in your hotel. I got to stay in a hotel overnight. It's late at night. And it's like, yeah, I understand. And I feel for these people, and I understand. It's like, okay, well, I can do this for you. I can do this for you. And they're like, they're constantly going to, be, distraught or mean or stuff like that. And I just try to kill them with kindness. But it's just like, hey, you know what? It's like, and no matter how much you go out of your way to help them out, they're still going to be mad. So it's just like, hey, you know what? You can't please everybody. All you can do is just try,
Right, right. And, that's all sometimes you can do. Kill people with kindness. You don't have to lose your kindness and your giving with having to say no sometimes. You can choose when you want to say yes. You don't have to people please.
Oh, exactly. And like we talked about before, is that it's okay sometimes just to say no. Hey, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. It's like, I don't get paid till Friday. I got the last $10, that's got to last me, 3 or 4 days. I can't borrow you any money. I can't. I'm sorry, but hey, I can't. You got to find some. Oh, please, come on, man. I can't do it. I'm sorry. I can't do it.
Yep.
But you got to stand firm and learning that on your own, or I don't know who you could talk to about that, but learning that on your own and standing firm saying, hey, I can't do it. But here's the good part. Once you start doing it, people start to realize that, hey, they're going to leave you alone, because that's one way how people, and sometimes this could be your family, your friends that can take advantage of you,
Exactly.
So what's the other part? People pleasing and
Self-sabotage would be our next topic.
Self-sabotage.
So some of the things that you would be looking into self-sabotage is, are you feeling unloved? Are you feeling imperfect? Do you feel shame or broken?
Shame or well, one of the things with self-sabotage, and one of the things I find out with self-sabotage is people love to self-sabotage themselves. And it's one of those things where they love to put themselves down and they love to, but here's the thing, and it's kind of hard to get past self-sabotage, because one of the things you have to do is you got to look in the mirror and look at yourself and go, hey, kind of that Stuart Smalley thing. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And doggone it, people like me, but my little Al Franken impression. But you have to look in the mirror and you have to start liking yourself. You have to like who you are. And if you don't, there's ways to change it. I mean, she can't believe that I go to the gym so much, but I love going to the gym. It's like I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, but I go to the gym, and the gym helps me. Sometimes I'm mad, sometimes I get things at work, I'm pissed at work, but when I go to the gym and I work out, and then when I look in the mirror, I actually do like me, and I actually do like myself. So self-sabotage, and even if you're not a person like me that goes to the gym or something, but you got to start liking yourself. You got to start liking yourself for who you are. But it begins upstairs in your own mind. You can't let other people dictate who you are and what you are.
Well, two things with that. There is women now walking into the women's room and starting to put up notes, special notes for other women, just to to appreciate themselves. I walked into one bathroom one time and there was a whole bunch of love yourself and appreciate yourself and you are beautiful and stuff like that. So other people are starting to recognize that people don't do this for themselves. But the other thing that I wanted to touch base on is that when we started dating, you going to the gym, my ex-husband never ever did that. So I was like, oh my goodness, this man goes to the gym all the time. But now that we've been together for almost 8 years, I'm like, man, he needs to get to the gym. He's driving me nuts. I can tell that he's just working way, way too much. And he needs to find some time to get to the gym. Like, yeah, just find 2 minutes to get to that gym.
Well, see, I love going to the gym. I love working out. I love just, for me, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of good health benefits for going to the gym, for relieving stress, because, She talks to me all the time about, well, this depression is this, and I'm like, go to the gym. Well, go to the gym. you know.
I know, and I miss going to the gym, and I'm working on my PTSD for right now, but I will be getting back in that gym as soon as I start taking care of more of that.
Okay, and PTSD. Now, if you don't know what PTSD is post traumatic post
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Post-traumatic stress disorder, which a lot of times we've heard about PTSD. One of the things we first heard about PTSD, it came from soldiers who were over in Iraq or over in the Middle East fighting, and they come back, and of course, a lot of them seen their brothers in arms, died or killed and stuff like that. So they come back with this disorder that is not good. So she ended, and Rachel's not a soldier. She's been on the front lines with the COVID thing because she's a EMT at a hospital. So can you talk more?
Not EMT.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm an aide. I'm an ST in the hospital. But yeah, I've been working front lines, and so many other nurses and doctors and NSTs and dietaries and people that just stock everything. All us frontline workers, police officers, firefighters, paramedics, we all have. And a lot of us are having stress issues right now, and some of them are having PTSD.
Yeah, because working so close with COVID. But one thing before we talk, for the frontline workers, we got to give a shout out to the frontline workers. For the frontline workers. So you with this PTSD, how does this affect you as far as self-sabotage?
So for self-sabotage, it's really hard for me to get into the gym right now. And whereas last year I was able to really, we weren't able to get into the concerts last year, but the year before that we were able to enjoy concerts. And this year they're starting to try and open up some concerts, and I just can't get into them because of the crowds. It's just way too, it puts me into an instant state of stress.
Yeah. Matter of fact, can I share a story with you? We were in the Mega Mall. And if you're not from Minnesota, the Mall of America, one of the largest malls in North America. And we were there looking at some computer stuff to get the stuff ready for the podcast and for the show. Make sure you check out our YouTube channel. Rachel will tell you more about that at the end of the show. But she started I'm like, what are you doing? Everybody has a mask on. What's going on? I'm like, what are you? And to me, it was just like, what's the problem? Everybody's got a mask on. Everything's cool. But she's like, I see these people in hospital beds. I'm like, nobody's in a hospital bed. And of course, I didn't know, and being dumb to the fact. I'm like, PTSD, you're not a soldier. What, and she had to explain it to me, and I had to get enlightened as far as what she's going through. And she's like, I can't be in this big crowd right now, So it's a slow process, as they say, baby steps. And I guess I would say she's taking baby steps to try to get to that, get to concerts and stuff like that. But as far as being self-sabotaging, how has it been self-sabotaging to you?
It's just been self-sabotaging because had I known that before, it would have put me into PTSD. I would have taken extra efforts to not put I definitely would have been working frontline. I love working with people, and I love taking care of people. But I would have taken more time for myself, and I definitely would have, put myself in a different frame of mind instead of the constant go of where I was.
Okay, so what are some baby steps you're doing to try to get back to where you are? Is it a possibility you can get back to where you were?
Oh yes, most definitely. I know there are coworkers of mine that are using medicine to do so right now, and now before I start stating any medication, which at this moment I'm not going to do, we are not certified. We are not we are in no way, shape, and form. What do I want to say?
We're not, no way, shape, or form, medically or certified to administer or tell you to take any kind of drugs or anything like that. But we do say this: if you are experiencing these type of symptoms, please seek a medical professional.
Exactly. Like I was saying, my coworkers, some of them are taking medications. For myself, I am seeing a therapist, and so she's helping me through some of those moments. And slowly going into like the Mall of America, the crowd is too much for me right now. But like the Eden Prairie Mall, instead of going in there with an agenda, I can go in there and just window shop, and start to enjoy being around larger crowds and start to appreciate who I used to be and slowly moving more and more and more into larger crowds.
Yeah, it's, like I said, baby steps, going forward, trying to go forward with this. And we also, too, want to say we give a shout out to all the people in the front lines working through this pandemic, through this. Hopefully we will get through this and we will see light at the end of the tunnel. And make sure you're out there. I don't know if you're doing the 2 shots, the 1 shots or whatever, but make sure you're out there checking out and trying to get vaccinated so we can definitely get through this as a nation and everybody. Remember, this is not political. This is not whether we're Republican or Democrat. This thing has affected everybody, and we all need to come together. Both sides need to come together so we can get through this.
Exactly. This is not a political thing. We need to come together as a nation, as a world.
Yes, we do. So moving on, we got self-sabotage. What are some other things?
As self-sabotage, you can blame yourself, you can, you don't even have to be in a relationship to blame yourself. You can be, why did I just do that stupid thing? I just wrecked our car. And you know how much I was beating myself up from that. And you were like, Rachel, why are you beating yourself up? Well,
I was like, hey, stuff happens, you messed up. But and one of the things that we try to tell the kids is that it's okay to mess up, just as long as you learn from your mess up.
Yeah. You don't, and some people go way, way beyond, just blaming themselves in that, and they really look internally and beat themselves so badly down just because they messed up their car, And
also too, things I don't understand, and maybe I'm from a different generation than the kids are today, but I see with self-sabotage, and I see this in the schools, a lot of kids are cutting themselves and all that because of this, because it's like, why would, to me, like I said, I'm from a different generation. It's like, why would you do that? Why would you pull something out and cut yourself? Because, it's like mistakes happen, things happen, but you don't, and anybody out there listening to this, if you know anything, if you'd like to be on the podcast and we can talk more about that, please give us a call. We'll give you information at the end of the show, and we'd love to have you on. And
please, if you are doing that, please seek medical help.
Yeah. Please seek medical help. But to somebody like me, it's like, you're cutting yourself. Why would you be cutting yourself just because you messed up? Just because, hey, it happens. Learn from it, and move on. But I don't know. Maybe there's just a new thing or something like that. But like I said, I'm not putting it down. It's just I don't understand it.
Yeah, definitely. And towards the end of this podcast, in each of these topics, we will be talking in little details of how to change each of these.
Oh yeah, definitely going to be talking about how to change this and how to move forward and how to be more control of yourself. And me talking about who I am, one of the things is, I remember when we first started dating, we'd go and take pictures, and she's like, look at this. I'm like, I look fat. She's like, I look fat. Nope. But, and it wasn't a thing that I was, I wasn't like, I just didn't like the way the picture looked. I'm like, nope, I look too fat. Nope, put me here, put me there, And these were things of self-sabotaging myself. But what I found out is that a lot of people are very, and I've seen guys that, I mean, like, just huge guys. I mean, guys that could be in any bodybuilding magazines, and they're looking at this and there. And I found out that, hey, everybody's critical of their self,
Exactly. Everybody's critical of themselves. You'd be surprised how many people are very critical of themselves. When our daughter Zoe was looking at herself and she's like, oh, I'm this, I'm that. I told her, go look at some of these models, how critical they are of themselves.
Yeah. Well, see, back in the day, okay, going back in the African American community, and unfortunately, I was never one in one of these schools, but back in the early, say like the late 60s, early 70s, back during the freedom movement, the civil rights movement, stuff like that, they were taking a lot of kids, and these kids were pre kindergarten, like preschool kids and stuff like that, and they were giving these kids classes, and it was a black teacher with all black kids, and they were teaching these kids that and saying that, hey, listen, this is who you are. You are black and you are beautiful. Say that, and it gave them more self-esteem as to going forward and moving up as far as who they were, And I see that, and I look at it and I was like, man, I wish we still had that today, because I see a lot of kids, and it's not just black kids, but white kids, Asian kids, and aren't feeling. And again, with that self-sabotage, it's just like, you gotta like who you are. And my parents always taught me, because we grew up in Maple Grove in the early 70s, where, let's trust, there weren't a lot of black people there. And my parents said, hey, be proud of who you are. And we were taught, and we actually walked and talked that, and we were proud of who we were, And of course, I had friends and stuff like that. But it was always, be proud of who you are. Be proud to be black, and stand up, and, don't never deny who you are. It's like, hey, I'm black, I'm African American. And as I got older, I realized, hey, I'm black, I'm African American. If you like me, great. If you hate me because of who I am or whatever, but don't hate me because I'm black,
Exactly. One more thought before we move on to our last topic. What you were saying, they still do today. They do this doll test,
Yeah, the doll test, yeah.
Yep. And they have the white doll and they have the black doll, and they say, which one's the beautiful one? And it's changing, but often they're picking up the white doll and saying, this is the beautiful one. And it's starting to change, which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, which is a great thing. And I don't care if you're young, old, black, white, Asian, whatever, Latino, whatever, but you got to be proud and be proud of who you are and what you stand for, and knowing that, and just being that. Because I've seen people who are kids, who may be a little bit overweight, but you see them and they got the attitude. Because I work in an elementary school, and I see kids like that, and they got the attitude. I'm like, you go, go, girl, you go, little guy.
Yep, definitely. Yep. All right. So for our last topic, we're going to go into false thinking.
False thinking. False thinking. I'll let you say it.
Yeah, false thinking. All right. So for false thinking, I have to say I am trying my hardest to move out of that. I often, try to read what people are thinking, and I'm not always right. And then, sometimes it leads into that self-sabotage, and it leads into that people-pleasing.
People-pleasing.
And with the people-pleasing and that self-sabotage, the false thinking, it's just, I want to make people happy, so I'm just trying to read their mind. Do they like me, and what are they going to think when I do this? And, often I'm not right. And, often I have, and even if I could be right, I have to look at myself and say, that's okay. That's okay if they're not going to appreciate what I'm about to do, Well,
see, with me, I'm one of those people like, I don't care what you think. This is who I am. And I found out that, hey, I just got to do Chris. If this person, a lot of times it happens at the workplace. If this person don't like me, fine, whatever. And I've actually had to tell people, like, listen, I know when this is all over, we're not going to go have drinks or nothing like that. I don't care about that. We got a job to do. You don't like me. I don't like you either. Let's just get the job done and let's go our separate ways. But right here, we got to work together, and that's all. So that's the kind of attitude I've always been in, like, hey, I don't care if you like me or not. This is who I am. I'm not going to read your mind. And I'm one of those people, too, that's like, you got something to say it. Okay, if not, then, forever hold your peace, and let's do what we got to do,
Yeah, exactly. And, there's a saying, assume. And it makes out of you, So, often, there's two things that I've done this year that, I was like, I'm just wondering what they're going to do when I cut my hair. I wonder what they're going to do when I dye my hair like this. And, what I found was they were like, that looks adorable on you. Wow, that's a change, but hey, you're making it work, And I really thought a lot of people were going to be like, oh, wow, you're going to do what? For the podcast, or you're going to do what in your YouTube channel? And everybody was like, yeah, I want to see that.
And that, again, that comes back to self-sabotage, too, is like, if you got something out there you want to do, start a business, do whatever, get out there and do it, Don't worry about trying to predict or trying to think of what people are going to think and what people are going to do. Just get out there and do it. And what you find out is you find out a lot of things that, man, I was actually glad I did this, because there's going to be some negative feedback, but there's also going to be positive feedback, and there's going to be people out there that do admire who you are,
Yeah. Yeah. How were you before you jumped out of an airplane?
Before I jumped out of that airplane, that's an interesting story. That's a great story. Okay. A little bit about me. I used to host a show called Live the Adventure, and for my year anniversary, I went down to Baldwin, Wisconsin, and I actually went skydiving. I did tandem jump. That's when you're hooked to an instructor. So I did it, and I was scared at first, but we got to the door, and I'm like, okay, I can't turn back. We're out. As obviously everything went great, but that night I was single then. And I went to the club, and I was, going there, of course, trying to meet women. Anyway, so I went in there, and I'm like, oh, my God, I wonder if I get cold feet again. And all of a sudden it hit me. I went, wait a minute, Chris. Earlier today, you jumped out of an airplane. That could have killed you. All somebody can say to you is yes or no. And it would kind of change my whole mindset, is that, hey, you know what? It's not going to kill me, so what the heck, And so I was different, but as the answer to your question, how was I before? I was kind of a little nervous, a little that, but then it kind of helped my confidence, because I'm like, hey, you know what? I've done a lot worse things than this, and a lot more dangerous things than this. So this ain't as bad as what could happen, So that's kind of how it changed me.
Sure. Yep. All right. So I think we talked about everything. We can start moving into how can people stop people pleasing? And some of the things that they can do in that are just be honest when they want to express how they really feel, and acknowledge what your needs really are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And practice self-care.
Yep.
And then, let me see, stopping fears from leading to self-sabotage. You can talk about honoring your fears excuse me, dry throat. Honoring your fears for trying to protect yourself, and thinking through different ways that might sabotage the situation.
Okay. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Infusion, the podcast. We're going to wrap it up. Rachel's going to tell us where you can find this podcast. And if you like the podcast, where you can leave feedback and ideals and everything like that. So, Rach, take it away.
Yeah, of course. And you guys have definitely heard us, and through the talk, we have definitely talked about all the other things. If you guys are needing any of the help on any of this stuff, please seek help. And you guys can find us on Apple, and you guys have a great day.
Have a great day, and remember, no self-sabotage, and like yourself. Again, I'm going to do it. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. Thank you for joining for this episode of Infusion, the podcast. Please join us next time. We're going to start having more guests in here. We're going to start talking a lot about. And if you have any subjects or anything you'd like to cover, or you'd like to be a guest on our podcast, please email us, call us, and Rach, how can they get a hold of us?
They can get a hold of us on Love Infusion Health at gmail.com.
loveinfusionhelp@gmail.com. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast of Infusion, the podcast. I'm comedian Chris Patrick, a.k.a. self-proclaimed power man. And
Rach, have a great day.
Thank you.